Hi everyone, I'm Cendril89, and welcome to my E3 opinions and analysis videos. This is going to be a series where I talk about all the big press conferences at E3 that just happened, give you my opinions on what we saw, the games that we saw, and some analysis of what I think will be coming to those games, what we can expect, what we can look forward to, if it feels like it's going to be worth $60 or whatever the price ends up being. And just anything else that was talked about during those press conferences. I am a person that has played video games almost their entire life. So for me, that's over 2 decades. And I try to take a look at things from a fan standpoint, but also from a reviewer or journalist standpoint as well. So you'll get a unique blend of these two things, which typically don't go together. But in the world of gaming, and like I said, this is opinions and analysis, you'll get a mix between them, and you'll be able to tell when you're getting my opinions or you're just getting facts. Without further ado, we are going to go ahead and go into the first press conference, and that's EA's press conference. They kicked off E3 on Sunday, and the opening was very interesting. They had Titanfall 2, just right off the bat. It's the first thing they opened with, and it was really good looking. I really was looking forward to Titanfall 2. I played the first Titanfall, and there was no single player in the first Titanfall. It was all multiplayer. They tried to have a story which was captivating. I wanted to know more, but there just wasn't a lot there. And if you never played the first Titanfall, what happened was the multiplayer also acted as a story. So it was all multiplayer combat, PvP combat, and PvE in a way. But that's where you got the story. There was no single-player story to Titanfall. Well, that changes in Titanfall 2. There is a fully offline single-player campaign. From what I have seen so far in trailers and what they talked about, this is a story between the Titan, which is a giant robot, and the pilot of that Titan, and their story. A boy and his robot story, if you will. It looked like it could be very emotional, which you need from your single-player campaign in a shooter. You only have a finite amount of time. Stories in first-person shooters are typically short. They're short campaigns, so you really have to make the most of each minute that you have in between gameplay. And you can do stuff during gameplay as well. The strength of the single-player campaign, to me, is going to come from this friendship out of desperation, whatever it ends up being, between this pilot and this robot, which has AI and seems to be much more advanced than Titanfall, where in Titanfall it was just a tool you use. This seems more like a companion, this giant robot, because it has AI, it talks, there's more to it there. They wanted to put some personality into the Titans, more than it just being a tool that you use to wreck the battlefield. You're still going to wreck the battlefield with the Titan, but they wanted to make that a focal point. I think it's a much welcome addition because, again, there were certain set pieces of Titanfall, like before missions started, that gave you a brief glimpse into the world, and it was very interesting. I was really engaged. I wanted to know more of this world of Titanfall, and it looks like we're really going to get that from Titanfall 2. But what most people play first-person shooters are for is the multiplayer. The multiplayer very much impressed me. It looked like they took everything good about the first Titanfall and added on it, and the things that weren't so good, they fixed. That's what I saw from this trailer. And from the gameplay that they showed during it. It looked fast-paced just like the first Titanfall. There's, double jumping if you played the first Titanfall. All the movement options are back. If you didn't play the first Titanfall, there was double jumping before Call of Duty did it. They kind of set this trend that you see these days in FPS shooters that are going more into the future, modern/future time. They started the double jumping. They started wall running. Titanfall did that before Call of Duty. And they brought all that back with Titanfall 2. There's also a class, because it sounds like they're going to have classes, because they said this was only on one class. I didn't write down exactly what it was, sorry. But it's one specific class. Front something, like front point man or front rifleman. I think it was front rifleman. But it has a grappling hook. It looks to be on a small cooldown. And you could use it to either traverse places or to grapple somebody else or grapple a Titan and get on top of it. There is so much potential in this grappling hook. And from what people that actually got to play Titanfall 2 on the show floor has said about it, or got to play it, hearing from different analysts in the industry, because I can't be at E3 and play it. My channel's not big enough to do that. Get, press passes or anything like that. But what they've said is that the grappling hook has some weight to it. So you could use it to swing, and it takes a little bit to get used to. But I like that. It sounds like there's going to be some skill to using the grappling hook in the best way. They promised a deep progression system. I want to see where that goes. Because you hear that a lot in games, and some of them don't deliver, especially in a first-person shooter. So when they say deep progression, I want to see that. Are we talking much more than just leveling up and getting weapons like in Call of Duty? Are we talking skill trees? Are we talking skill trees for the Titans and the pilots? What are we talking about with this deep progression? I will be very interested to see where that goes. Instead of 3 Titans like the first game, those are being scrapped and kind of reimagined, and there's going to be 6 Titans in this game. More choices. I really like that. Also, you'll see some abilities that previously if you played Titanfall attached to some of these other Titans, but they've been kind of broken up and reimagined and completely changed. The 2 Titans that they showed 2 out of 6. They showed Ion and Scorch. Scorch is a fire-based Titan. Looks like it had, like a ground slam fire wave attack, which seemed really cool. And Ion, its like ultimate attack, you could say, was basically a giant Cyclops type beam from the chest. I guess Havoc, you would say. Just this giant laser beam of death. It looked really cool. One note, if you played the original Titanfall that I really want to talk about, is rodeoing. If you played, you know what that is. If you don't, it's where you get on top of a Titan and you basically punched out the pilot. This was a big complaint because it was, once players got really good at it, Titans lost a lot of their power. Because all you have to do is rodeo a Titan and hope that nobody else came and took you out, and you just took out the pilot. Well, that's not the case in Titanfall 2. What they're doing now is if you rodeo a Titan and you end up punching through the plating or whatever, you get a battery, which doesn't insta-kill the Titan that you're rodeoing. Instead, it takes out a chunk of its health. Then, in a more co-op-y move, which is really cool, you can take that battery and rodeo one of your team's Titans, put the battery pack in there, and they get a boost of health. They didn't talk about whether you can go above 100% with this, or if it just fills up to 100%, but it restores a chunk of health, adding even more co-op to this multiplayer. Just a little bit, but I think it's important. Titanfall 2 comes out October 28th for PlayStation and Xbox. The first one was Xbox exclusive. Also, I think it comes out on PC. But the first Titanfall was Xbox exclusive. So I'm really excited to see it go to other consoles and platforms. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I'm typically not very good at first-person shooters. I would say average at best, but I was really good at Titanfall. And it was just a lot of fun to play because it looks like they're bringing that element of to get points, you don't have to just kill other players. You get more points for that. But there are also these robots that move along, kind of in a MOBA style, where you have just the I guess, trash mobs, I guess you would call them. I don't know. I don't know the official MOBA term for these things. But they'll be basically AI walking through the level. And if you kill them, you get points for your team as well. Looks like that system is back, and I'm really excited to see that. Because even if you're not too good at maybe killing other players, you can still help your team. Even with this new rodeo mechanic, even more so. I'm very interested to see everything Titanfall 2 has to offer. After Titanfall 2, we got Madden 17, and they spent quite a bit of time on Madden 17 because of something EA is doing now. Talking about these basically community weekly type competitions. And they had 3 sets of them. They had challenger events, which they called community events, premier events, which I guess are like semi-pro events. They didn't go too much into that. And EA major events, which are basically pro level events, as in like esports, for the big names in esports. I do like that EA is taking a chance on esports. They've done esports stuff already, but to really try to grow it some more, I really applaud EA for that. Talked about a new commentary team for Madden 17, see where that goes. Other than that, it looked like a Madden game. Just like Madden games recently. Their big announcement were these competitions. And something else that I made a note of was that the Madden Championship for this past year will be on, and they had Stan Verrett from SportsCenter, will be on ESPN 2, 3, Twitch TV, and YouTube. What astounded me was that it's on ESPN 2. That's a cable network. This, I think, talks to the growing number of people that are interested in esports and watch esports. So many people watch Dota championships, watch League of Legends championships, and I think this is great for the industry as a whole. That was the big thing I took away from Madden 17. Other than that, they didn't show much gameplay or anything like that. That's mainly what they talked about. They spent a little bit of time, new commentary team, then, showed off a little bit of the game. No gameplay, just, their typical teaser trailer for Madden games. But then they focused a lot on esports, and I think this is a great thing for the gaming community as a whole. And we'll see exactly where that goes. Does EA really keep up with it? How much time and effort do they put into this system? We'll have to wait and see. But I have high hopes for that, because I think it's good for the gaming industry as a whole. I don't play many sports games, if any, these days, so it doesn't necessarily appeal to me. But for those that do play sports games, that could be really, really good. After that, everybody's minds are just like, here it is, because they showed off Mass Effect Andromeda, one of the big titles everybody was waiting for this year at E3 from EA. Say that 5 times fast. The big quote they kept pushing in this trailer, and that's all we got, was a trailer, sorry folks, was how far will we go? Which I like that. It showed that N7 is still a thing. This takes place sometime in the future. We don't know what exactly this is. They showed a really huge ship. I guess that's going to be your base of operations, I would think. It showed that the, Shepherd type character didn't, show a face or anything, because you make your own Shepherd if it's like any of the other Mass Effect games. And he was scanning through places and chose a stage. Chose like this desert planet. If that's how the game is, this could be a ton of fun. Like really broaden where you can go, your choices, which has always been a big thing about Mass Effect, choices. So they showed that. They showed that there was a buggy type vehicle in their trailer that you're going to use to get around this planet. So that kind of flashed me back to Mass Effect 1. Could be good. Could be bad. All depends on how well they do the buggy mechanics. One thing they pointed out was that they're there looking for a new home. Why is my question. What happened? These are all story details that, of course, they're never going to say. And one of the things they wanted to make clear to me in this trailer was that you're getting a whole new Mass Effect experience. It's also something they talked about a little bit. That you're getting this whole new Mass Effect experience, but you're going to see a few things from the first Mass Effect trilogy, from 1, 2, and 3. You're going to see races you're familiar with. You won't necessarily see characters. I don't think you'll see any characters you're familiar with, because I think they want to really set this apart from that trilogy and start new. But you'll see races you're familiar with, maybe hear terms you're familiar with Mass Effect, if you're a Mass Effect fan. It's going to be interesting how they balance those two things, because they have to make an experience for new people who maybe want to get into this but don't want to play the initial trilogy. But I would like to get into Mass Effect. This could be it. This could be the chance for that. No release date. They said we'd get more this fall. That's all they had. It was just a trailer, and you pulled out pieces you could from that. I did, and that's it. There's nothing else there, which was really disappointing. I was hoping they had maybe a little bit of gameplay so we could figure out what to expect. Just something more, and they really didn't have anything other than say, hey, remember that Mass Effect game? Remember it, because there'll be more on it this fall. So, that's all they had there. Then they talked about this thing they're doing, Play to Give. It's 5 challenges, and that they're going to take, basically, whenever a challenge is completed, it donates money to these organizations. Sounded cool. It was their kind of, hey, PR pitch. But that's always good. I'm always happy when companies do donate to organizations that could use it and to help really good causes. It just flashed on the screen, so I didn't get to write down exactly what they were. But I've heard of some of those organizations. So there is that I know they're good organizations from, research, hearing about them before from my university days. So there was that. It was just a brief thing, but you have to have that just to... We're human too. Don't think of us as just a company that's really mean sometimes, because EA has a history of bad customer service. So on from there, they went to FIFA. Now you can expect a lot of sports games from EA, of course, but this will be the last one, promise, because I have wrote down everything, because I wanted to really give you all as much information as I could, and that way I could keep things on track. So I worked a lot during E3. FIFA 17. They said that there's going to be a complete innovation, big improvements. They had these 4 big improvements, such as better handling, better AI, things like that. I don't play FIFA, so I don't really have... I couldn't break it down for you as if it were an RPG or something like that, where I have much more expertise, much more experience. I have very little experience with FIFA. It looked great, because the FIFA games always look great these days. The way they started off, let me backtrack a little bit. the FIFA presentation was they had a montage of FIFA over the years, like the first game and how it's evolved. I thought that was really cool. I think that's important to do with long franchises sometimes and show just how much it's changed. Because you lose track of that. And it's one, just a great business way to do things if you have a beloved franchise like FIFA is. A lot of people love FIFA to death. So, the video games anyway. Love the FIFA video games anyway to death. The actual company FIFA, that's up for debate. But, FIFA 17, that's how they started off, and it was really good. It was just a good business decision. You get a little bit of nostalgia factor with that as well. But it's just good to see the game evolve over the years. Because again, as a consumer, sometimes you forget that. And it's good to see not only from their business perspective, but I also feel it's good to see from a gamer perspective as well. Their big announcement was that they're having a full-fledged story mode called The Journey. And it's going to be like story modes here lately. You take control of a character, and your decisions will show whether he ends up in the big league or down and out. The little bit that they showed from it looked like it could have some really emotional moments. This all comes down to how much time do they spend with the story mode? How much do they flesh it out? How much do your choices matter? And how many kind of different endings do we have? If there's a lot, this could be a huge thing for FIFA. I think. Having that big story mode. Because if it is a really good big story mode, it would get people like me, who are maybe really not into FIFA, to play it for the story mode. And to see the story. Kind of appeal to the RPG people out there like me who enjoy a story. But still enjoy sports. Like, I do enjoy sports. I don't play sports, but I do enjoy watching sports. And on occasion playing them. And something like a really big, robust story mode would be highly impressive if they took the time to do that. We'll have to see. That's it for FIFA. Then EA came out and announced a new program. They're calling it their EA Originals program. This will be the equivalent to ID at Xbox. And PlayStation's, I know they have an indie development system as well, but I don't remember what it's called. I apologize. But it's EA's way of helping indie and small developers. They said that all profit goes back to the developers. Okay, I'm going to hold EA to that. We'll see about that. But it would be really nice. I want to believe EA. They've made it hard to believe in them over the years with like bad customer service and just bad business, in my opinion. But this could be the first step to rectifying that. And I really hope it is. And that they're not just going to be the greedy, completely greedy company that they are sometimes. That they really do want to help these indie and small developers publish their games. And then we can all expect what EA is going to do. They're going to take the best and, kind of bring them into the EA fold. I see how this works. But it's good for those developers. Let's not, focus on the bad, which for some reason happened quite a bit during this E3 from people. Let's focus on the good that comes from that. If these developers can make good games, have great ideas, then they might get a chance to actually bring those to light, make them come true. And I'm really hopeful for that. So I hope EA does really good things with this. And they showed their first game and developer that will come out of this process. And it's called Fee. And they had the developer out there. And you could just tell this guy, I didn't get to write down his name. I was scribbling out a whole bunch of other notes. But he was so nervous, you could tell. And it was awesome. It really was. Because you could tell this was just a small team. I think he said how many he may not have. but just a very small team of people working on this game. Because I don't think he was doing it alone. I think it was a small team. As this is just a small team, and he was out on stage, and you could tell he was nervous being on this huge stage of E3. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people watching this press conference and watching him about his game that he's working on, that he has this passion for. And he was so nervous, but I thought it was so genuine, it was so real. And that's something that EA misses sometimes, because they're very businesslike a lot. But this was so real. Talking about the game itself, it's an indie title. It's about nature, and you play as this little lost cub. And what's interesting is music is how all the animals talk. And then there's these bad guys called the Silent Ones that are trying to silence the forest. And they look like robot, just pure black with like a white Cyclops, robot eye. There's not even an eye, it's just light. It looked like it could be very interesting. It looked like an exploration type game with a little bit of platforming. You try to get these animals, like you learn music. You learn like this little tune that lets you communicate with this new animal to help you get to new places. Look like one of those kind of games. Exploration type game. It could be worth checking out. The art style was very unique to me. It looked really good. They showed like a funny part in the trailer where you got one of the really big animals to help you you get it to beat up one of these evil robot things because you can't do it yourself. It looks like you're a really small cub, so you have to be cunning, use stealth, things like that. It looked like it could be a very interesting play, so I'm going to keep my eye out for it. After that, EA did a typical EA thing. They have the Star Wars license now, which is huge. We can make Star Wars games, and that's a big, big deal. So, what I took the most away, they showed like all this, they showed new Battlefront content, Star Wars Battlefront, that they want to bring, just real quick. Showed that Respawn Entertainment is working on a third-person action adventure with its own story. But everything that they showed, and they just quickly montaged a whole bunch of other stuff. Or talked to, developers working on other things. The thing was, these are all years down the line. So, EA's press conference in 2019, mark it down, it will be mind-blowing. Maybe 2018, depending on how these projects work out. I think it could be a mind-blowing time for Star Wars fans. In 2018-19. And it's nice to say that you're working on these projects, but at the same time, they spent a little too much time on it. Say these are the people working on it, and there is some big names in the industry working on these that make really good games, know what they're doing, and I understand you want to put that front and center and let people know, hey, this person is working on this Star Wars game. It's going to be awesome in a few years. I get that, but at the same time, I don't know. It just doesn't do much for me. I would, because again, we'll be hearing about this stuff for a few E3s to come. So, there's that. I don't like it when press conferences do that, because it just kind of takes some of the life out of it. And they did a good job showing it all, showing what little they had off, talking with these people, making it, nice to watch. It's a few years down the line. And at E3, I want to hear more about what's coming up this year, early next year, not 3 years later. You can tell me about that next E3. because it'll be closer to then. That's my opinion, but that's how I feel about that. For the most part, there's always exceptions to the rule. After that, the way they ended their press conference, this was the final game they showed off, and of course, that's Battlefield 1. That's what they're calling it, Battlefield 1, because it's going to be set in World War I. People are very mixed on this. Like, just personally, I have a few friends who are not interested in this title at all because World War I. I'm interested to see what they do with it. You have all these other first-person shooters going into the future. So to break away from that, setting it back in the past with World War I, I think it could be a very good idea. Could also be a lot of fun. Of course, it's Battlefield. It just looked visually breathtaking. It looked great, as it always does. How it will actually look in game, I think it'll still look really good because Battlefield games typically do. They're promising even more destruction, which Battlefield always promises, and they might deliver. They promised dynamic weather. They showed off some of these vehicles, but the thing that interests me is they talked about behemoths. And what these are huge vehicles. We're talking like blimp vehicles. Like the one that they showed, I don't know if there'll be other ones. Well, they showed two. They showed a train, like an armored train. And it showed people riding horses to get up on the train. Again, none of this was gameplay. This was all kind of in a trailer, kind of cinematic trailer type. But they talked about that the train was one of these behemoths, which means you'll be able to get on the train and control it and probably have teammates get on the train and control the guns, the cannons, whatever. Could be a lot of fun. We'll see how that all plays out. And the other one they showed was a blimp, like, you know, one of those big, like a cure-off from Red Alert 3. Like that. And that it's one of these big behemoth vehicles. These huge vehicles that multiple players use to take down enemies. It sounded interesting. I don't know how it's actually going to play out. As always, it's going to have a really big scale in the battlefield. So there was that. They had a live stream afterwards, but I missed that. So they showed off some more Battlefield. They showed off quite a bit of the multiplayer, so you can check that out for yourself if you want to know more about Battlefield 1 and how it looks like, how it plays. It's probably going to play like a Battlefield game in World War I. So World War I, the weaponry, and those kind of tanks and armored vehicles and things like that. It'll just be set in that era, but it'll probably play very much like a Battlefield game, like 4, like 3, but with the addition of this big behemoth vehicles. World War I was well known for its trench warfare, and I want to see how Battlefield tackles that. Is there going to be a lot of it, very little of it, a lot of close quarters? I don't know, running from trench to trench where you're out in the open. How's this? How are they doing that? They probably won't have, but probably like one stage with it, and it'll still feel like a lot like a Battlefield game, because you'll be in a forest or something, or in a town with these big open environments with some close spaces. That's about all for that's everything for the E3 conference. Now some final thoughts from me. It was a good press conference in my opinion. Where it ranks with the others, well, you'll have to wait because I'm going to talk about the others. But it just had a lot of little tidbits to me. They focused a lot on FIFA 17, on Madden, on that system, the weekly competition system. Quite a bit on Titanfall 2, which was nice. Took some time with the EA Originals program, which I thought was really good. But you also had these things, like the Play to Give, which I already said, I'm really in favor for. But like the Star Wars games, maybe did a little, even though it's such a huge thing, talked a lot about those competitions those event things. Didn't show much about Mass Effect, so it was good, but there was just a lot of little tidbits about things, other than the few things they really focused on. The thing that made me the most sad for this press conference was there was no PopCap mentions. What are they working on? I'd like to know. Are they working on DLC for Garden Warfare? Garden Warfare 2? I would love that. I would be so happy for that. A Peggle 3, which so many people would die over if there was Peggle 3. You know, something. I was shocked to see PopCap not in this presser, especially since they have been in the past few years. The highlight of the show, to me, was by far Titanfall 2. It looked so good. One of the things I forgot to mention, there was a gravity-type grenade. The player threw it, and it sucked in nearby robots and one player as well. There was that. That looked like so much fun to use. The gameplay looked really fluid, just like the first Titanfall, which is just great. The grappling hook, the wall run is back. You could hover in midair and fire. Great. It just looked like a ton of fun. It looked great. I cannot be more excited to play Titanfall 2. I am really, really looking forward to that shooter, and I think it will be a ton of fun to play. So that's my big takeaway from EA's press conference. If you watched the press conference, I hope you enjoyed it to some degree, saw some games that you liked. Those are my opinions. As always, you can look on YouTube for additional videos to actually see some gameplay, see some things that I talked about. If something that I talked about, interested you, you can look up some more information about it. I did my best to get down release dates and things of that nature, and just some information, things that I took out from what I saw, and some things that maybe I heard later on in the day about it, about a few games like Titanfall 2. But that's going to do it for this one. Next is Bethesda's press conference. We'll see what they talked about. Well, you won't see because I don't have video. Again, not super special or anything. But I'll talk about what I saw. Again, my analysis, my opinions. If you enjoyed me doing this, please click the like button and let me know that you enjoy me giving you my analysis, my opinions about these games. And until I talk about Bethesda's press conference, I'm Cendril89. Remember to shoot for the stars and take care, everyone.